What's going on, DSG? It's your boy DarrnellBradley back at y'all another video, and today we've got Homo floresiensis, the ancient Hobbit people. This comes to us by way of Lindsay Nicole. We had seen her on an episode of Casual Geographic. As you know, we react over there, and I said we were gonna get to this channel, we were gonna see what's going on. It has been some time since those words were spoken, so we are here, and I want to see what's going on with the ancient Hobbit people, because what? Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, follow me on all that there social media, and we're here without any further ado. 3, 2, 1, click.
50,000 years ago, a small species of human lived in a cave tucked away on the island of Flores in Indonesia. They were,
and I feel like I got all the information I needed right there. All right, thanks for the video. No. I had a question and she straight up answered it. All right, let's go.
3 feet tall and seem to live a much more primitive lifestyle than other human species alive at the time. They're called Homo floresiensis, also known as the Hobbit people. The Hobbit people had a strange mix of characteristics that made them vastly different from other human species, and their environment was equally as alien from the rest of the world. Although only bits of evidence have been found of their existence, and many aspects of their life are still a mystery, their fossils have led to massive debates on their origins. Today we'll be exploring them, specifically where they came from, how they got so small, and if they are possibly still alive. As always, we're going to get the general information out of the way, this time by looking at the hominin family tree, which shows the major groups of hominins that have emerged since about 7 million years ago. That upper group in the tree represents the genus Homo, humans. This includes us, of course, Homo floresiensis, Neanderthals, Homo erectus, which we are thought to have evolved from, and a handful of other human species that were different from our own, many of which at some point existed at the same time as us. At the time that both modern humans and Homo floresiensis were alive, I want to say there were like 5 other human species hanging out in different parts of the world, which is pretty nuts.
That is crazy and interesting to think about, you know what I'm saying? Like, think about big cats, you know what I'm saying? Like tigers and lions, like, you know what I'm saying? Like different people like that. That'd be crazy. Like a different kind of person, just, you know what I mean? Like, I know there are different people in our world, but I'm talking about as far as like how this describes them, you know what I'm saying? All right,
some of which interacted with each other. Each species had their own unique environment to adapt to, and so had their own distinct set of traits. Homo floresiensis is arguably the most unique though, and so come with a lot of questions. If you're even slightly familiar with the study of evolution, you know that shit is complete pandemonium. I spent hours going back and forth on what to include in the general information topic, because it's really easy to go on tangents about how complicated this shit is. So to keep it simple, I'm gonna stop here. I want to do more videos.
Oh shit. I like her. She said, listen. I want to make this video. I want you all to have the information. All right, I do. I like making these, but fuck all of that. All right, I know what you need and what you don't know. If there's other you want to know, open a goddamn book.
Videos on human evolution in the future, so I will keep the ranting for that. In summary, Homo floresiensis represents just one branch in the complex hominin family tree that has existed for about 7 million years. All right, I think we're ready to get into it. Let's do a little bit of lore. Back in the 1950s, Dutch scientists decided to go to Flores to look for early human traces, which turned out to be successful trips. They found things like stone artifacts with remains of stegodon, an extinct relative to elephants. So they decided to continue excavations on different parts of the island. And in 1965, they went to a massive cave called Lianggua, which translates to cool cave. Absolutely fucking sick-ass cave. Awesome. Lianggua was a gold mine. Traces of Homo sapiens from the early and late Stone Age, the Metal Age. They found human skeletons, evidence of deliberate burials, pottery, artifacts, etc. Clearly, Lianggua played a big role for early humans on the island, and excavations continued here for decades. So at this point, scientists from all over the world were interested in getting into this cave and finding some more cool human shit. Not human shit. Cool fossil stuff. It was initially thought that the deeper layers that dated to like the meat of the Pleistocene were going to be culturally sterile. No evidence of humans, as modern humans hadn't arrived there yet, that they knew of. But New Zealand archaeologist Mike Morwood disagreed, and despite bitter shit talking from the Dutch, ended up taking over the excavation projects. And it's a good thing he did. On September 2nd, 2003, Mike's team hit the top of a very small skull while digging. They initially thought they found the remains of a modern human child, managed to uncover leg bones and some arm bones of the same individual, and once the skull was cleaned, they looked at the molars and realized this child had fully developed adult teeth.
Wait a minute!
That's not a kid. That's something else. The team kept this discovery.
That's a grown-ass thing! It's grown! It's a big one! The what the small ones? Like, wait a minute. Yeah, questions. I can only imagine questions had to be asked and answered. You know what I'm saying? In that particular moment.
Hidden from the public for about a year to study it, figure out what the fuck they got going on. And in 2004, they published their findings. A new small-bodied hominin from the late Pleistocene of Flores, Indonesia. They named it Homo floresiensis. A new small-bodied year to study it, figure out what the fuck they got going on. And in 2004, they published their findings. A new small-bodied hominin from the late Pleistocene of Flores, Indonesia. They named it Homo floresiensis, and it gacked the scientific community and even hit regular news networks. So it essentially went viral. So what were these traits that made Homo floresiensis such a big deal? Yes, they were small, and that was a big part of it. Fossil remains of multiple individuals that were found were on average about a meter tall, which is like the size of a modern human 5-year-old, just little guys. But that's not all. They also had a really unusual mix of more primitive and modern traits. They were bipedal, walked on 2 feet, like other species in the genus Homo, but they had more robust limb bones, longer arms, shorter legs, proportions similar to earlier hominins in the tree like Australopithecus, which our whole genus Homo is thought to have evolved from. Also, their feet were big, their legs were short, and their feet were relatively...
So like with all that, whatever, you kind of see the whole like evolution from monkey type deal type thing, you know what I'm saying? So like, that's interesting when you hear and talk about a lot of like that missing link stuff, and then like crap like this. It's like you get a clearer picture of how that moved. You know what I mean? I like that.
This Homo is thought to have evolved from. Also, their feet were big. Their legs were short, and their feet were relatively long, which made their feet look even bigger. Big feet. Big foot.
Oh shit.
But what was arguably most perplexing about them was how small their brain.
She was like, I'm gonna throw this one at you. You gonna corner pocket that one in the back of your mind.
Foot.
Oh shit.
But what was arguably most perplexing about them was how small their brains were. Their cranial capacity was just a fraction of that of other species in the genus. Let me put it into perspective real quick. Let's say this bush represents the genus Homo. We've got Neanderthals over here, all right? They had an average cranial capacity of 1,500 cubic centimeters. Us, let's put us right.
She gonna do math? We doing math? Numbers and shit? Wait, hold on. Wait a minute, I didn't come here for the math. Shit.
Nah. Let's put us right here. Sapiens. We have an average cranial capacity of 1,400 cubic centimeters. Yeah, Neanderthals had us beat on that one. The more you know. And Homo erectus had a very long lifespan. They went from 700 cubic centimeters to 1,200 cubic centimeters in a time from 2 million to 500,000 years ago. Where did hobbits fall onto this scale? They had a cranial capacity of 417 cubic centimeters. What the fuck? That's closer to some of the earliest hominin species like Sahelanthropus chidensis that was like 350 cubic centimeters and were alive like 7 million years ago.
I love how like it's a video and like a lot of people like when you watch this, if you're watching this, you should know a little something about a little something. I know a little bit about a little almost nothing. And so when she say things like this right here, hold on.
That was like 350 cubic. Some of the earliest hominin species like Sahelanthropus chidensis that
like I'm just supposed to know that shit. Go ahead. Hey, we here to get educated. That's the point. Let's go.
Was like 350 cubic centimeters and were alive like 7 million years ago. Absolutely baffling for a species that was only alive 50,000 years ago. Erase. So even though the hobbits were originally classified as their own species in the genus Homo in the original paper, this became a huge debate. This mix of characteristics would suggest extremely drastic evolutionary changes over a relatively short period of time, with some traits seemingly going backwards in evolution, which is not the correct way to look at it. Things don't go backwards in evolution, but like it seemingly went backwards in evolution. So many.
Okay, so I just feel like in that regard, it was more the evolution of mind. If I'm just gonna take a stab at it before I finish watching the video, the evolution of mind and how I would say, built things to where I think that might have, like, I'm just theorizing here. I don't freaking know these things, but curved our need to evolve for like outside, you know what I mean, or tough terrain, whatever. Our minds started making our living situation more comfortable with building this and building that and whatever, where we would like build and make things and whatever, whereas other animals couldn't do that. And so it would seem like physically we evolved backwards because we didn't need all of these things to survive out there because we figured out a way not to be out there. You know what I'm saying? And so our mind just kept going. That's the theory, I guess. Let's go.
Many scientists weren't convinced that these anatomical pipsqueaks represented their own species. Some argued that maybe these fossils represented modern humans that suffered from some sort of abnormal condition. Microcephaly was proposed, which literally translates to small head, cephaly, head, if you remember from the two-headed snakes video, which, by the way, I got a two-headed snake tattoo. Laron syndrome and Down syndrome were also thrown out there, but none of them totally made sense for the fossils and their proportions. There was also talk of maybe growth hormones being impacted by a lack of iodine in the environment, but nothing stuck because nothing completely fit as an explanation. Scientists who supported the new species idea held strong and argued that these seemingly unexplainable changes in their anatomy could be explained when you look at them in the context of their whole environment. That's right, bitches. Island rule. If you've never heard of island rule, you can kind of think of it as Mother Nature's way of saying fuck around and find out. Islands are where shit gets weird. In general, the smaller an island is, the weirder it gets, and the further it is from the mainland, the weirder it gets. That's the key. Flores just so happens to sit in an area called Wallacea, which is a group of islands that sit between Asia and Australia, and throughout geologic time have rarely or never been connected to the mainlands via land bridges. Land bridges happened with rising and falling sea levels during the ice ages, ice caps making shit melt, and led to a lot of different migration events, like the Bering Strait land bridge allowed humans to cross into North America. But land bridges never really existed in Wallacea. Obviously, the ocean in between, let's say, Asia and Flores is pretty significant barrier for migration that most species aren't really capable of crossing. So when it does happen, it's very rare, and then once they're there, they're stuck. They're done. They're isolated. There's no migration in or out. This creates an environment that is drastically different than the one on the mainland. The resources are different, interactions with different species are different, maybe fewer or no predators, less competition, and the populations are genetically isolated. There's no migration in or out. So over generations, their evolution goes nuts. All of them. It's like the Wild West. Allow me to introduce you to a few of these evolutionary experiments the hobbits lived with. A giant stork called Leptotylus robustus. They got to about 6.5 feet tall.
Oh, hell no. Not today. What the fuck? Look, here's my thing. See, because back then we still could have been prey, depending on what we was building or what they was building. I don't know, because you know what I'm saying. Humans in their natural element ain't got no predators that's gonna hit them like that. You got some challenges, like a couple dogs might get you if you know what I'm saying, not really up on your, you know what I mean. But like, ain't nothing just about to come out the sky and take us. Like, you know what I'm saying. If anything, it's an attack because they pissed off, so it might fuck you up. But it ain't really about trying to eat you. That thing, like that size, that's a predator, bro. You just to you. Sorry, let me move.
Twice the size of a hobbit. That's fucking terrifying.
Hell yeah!
Suggest they were able to fly despite their size, so they were likely in direct competition with the hobbits for food, which would have sucked
if the hobbits weren't the food. Like
for the hobbits, those odds suck. Dude,
horrible.
Imagine if seagulls were twice your size. Bruh. You would absolutely let them take your sandwich on the beach. There were also pygmy elephants that evolved from stegodon. They're estimated to have been about 650 pounds, which is very small for an elephant. Asian elephants are like over 6,000 pounds. So, teeny, little teeny. I've talked about a different pygmy elephant before in my cutest extinct animals video, the Sicilian pygmy elephant. They got really small over a relatively small number of generations. This has just happened a couple times with elephants and their relatives, and cut marks in the bones of dwarf stegodon suggest the hobbits ate them. Komodo dragons also
the mini ones?
And cut marks in the bones of dwarf stegodon suggest the hobbits ate them. Komodo dragons also lived and still live on the island of Flores. Obviously, they're very big and posed a real threat to those pint-sized hobbits. I mean, they were the length of 3 hobbits laying down.
Bro, I couldn't, bro. Oh, yo, just imagine living in an island where you are not the apex predator. Like, where you are just like, because you imagine that as people, like, as how we are now, if there were just other, could you just imagine how drastically our evolutionary would have just been different? Because, oh, yo, build houses, ain't nothing that ain't gonna stay up. Gonna crash all that down. I'm hungry, nigga. Like, our shit would have been underground. We would have been underground, people. That's why I found him in a cave. Yo, oh my god, bro.
Posed a real threat to those pint-sized hobbits. I mean, they were the length of 3 hobbits laying down, dude. That's a threat. That is a threat. There were also,
exactly.
still are, giant rats. some the size of rabbits. Many species of varying sizes that the hobbits ate. So clearly they lived in their own little world with animals that interacted in different ways than usual and thus created an ecosystem unlike any other on the planet. For them, adapting to these unique conditions meant changes in their energy requirements, which led to shifts in the way their bodies use energy over time. For some reason, well, actually multiple reasons, it was beneficial for the ancestors of the hobbits to become small, to shrink over time, including their brain capacity, which might not make sense right off the bat. Like, the brain is so useful, why would you want it to shrink and not work as well, theoretically? Okay, so obviously, in order for your body to function properly, it needs a certain amount of energy that comes from food. If you're on an island with limited resources, hitting that energy requirement might be tough.
So
and nervous tissue, brain tissue is extremely energetically expensive, uses a shit ton of energy. So if the new environment doesn't require that much brain power, maybe there are no predators that you have to look out for and other factors.
Well, I mean now that just in that statement right there, excuse me, we just went over that. They had predators. Them was predators. You said it. You got Komodo dragon. That was a predator. That bird. I know you say they competed for food, but I feel like it could have got a few of them. I ain't even gonna lie. So okay. Maybe it's like just a trade-off. You got to deal with the devils of the situation. All right.
Require that much brain power. Maybe there are no predators that you have to look out for and other factors. It makes sense to reduce the energy cost by decreasing the amount of nervous tissue, i.e., brain gets smaller. No need expensive brain, making it seem like they returned to a more primitive condition, but they were actually just adapting to their unique environment. It really serves as a reminder that evolution has no goal. There's no end goal. The goal isn't to be the most intelligent or the most whatever. It's just to
whatever's
survive
at the time.
in the environment you exist in. And
exactly. I like it. You just surviving where you at. Your changes to survive where you at. That's it. That's it. There's no grand scheme with this. It's just, oh, you over here. All right, over time, we're going to change to do this. Oh, now you're over there. Over time, we're going to change to do that. That's it.
Intelligence doesn't really have anything to do with that. Long story short, island ecosystems are weird as fuck. Weird shit happens, and Homo floresiensis is just an example of that. I actually got a lot of this information from this paper. It covered what island rule looked like for all the animals on Flores, went way more in detail than I did. I'll put the link in the description in case you want to check it out. It was a really cool read. They also included this short section on how they think each of the animals got to the island of Flores, what those migration events looked like, since those animals that lived on Flores must have crossed the water barrier somehow. They proposed swimming for elephants and lizards, floating for tortoises, and rafting for rats and hominids. They also suggested tsunamis might have played a role too, which makes sense for that region. Okay, so who were the ancestors to Homo floresiensis? Where do they come from? This is still a huge debate. Everything's still a big debate. Because like I said, right now, there's only a handful of evidence of their existence in general, let alone who they evolved from. So scientists are currently really basing it on the fossil evidence of the ancestral candidates. The most widely accepted idea right now is that they represent a dwarfed species of Homo erectus. Homo erectus was an insanely successful species. They were around for like 1.5 million years, and like I mentioned earlier, are considered the ancestors to Neanderthals, Homo sapiens, us, as well as other species in the genus Homo. They had a pretty large geographic range too. They migrated out of Africa, spread to Eurasia, and then into Indonesia, and existed there in modified forms until like 100,000 years ago. It seems most likely that one population somehow got to the island of Flores and got isolated there. The problem that scientists
we got stuck. They made us small. They had lizards that was trying to eat us.
So pointed out with this specific idea is that so many aspects of Homo floresiensis are much more primitive than Homo erectus. The paper I just mentioned does support the Homo erectus origin idea, but as far as I can tell, it's still on shaky ground. Not everyone has reached that consensus yet. Some scientists think the step backward is too big of a jump for it to have started from Homo erectus, but it's still the most accepted explanation, because the other option is even more shaky, that Homo floresiensis evolved from a different Homo species, more primitive than Homo erectus, Homo habilis. Handyman that was in Africa about 2 million years ago. Maybe they slowly left Africa with populations expanding and eventually reaching Flores. That would explain the more primitive features of the hobbits, but there is absolutely no evidence that Homo habilis ever left Africa that we know of. So where they came from is still a mystery, but is there a possibility that they're still alive? Apparently, multiple different groups of people that are from the island of Flores have these stories of ape men that they claim are still around and seen. Is there a possibility that they're still alive? Apparently, multiple different groups of people that are from the island of Flores have these stories of ape men that they claim are still around and seen on very rare occasion. They're described as something like human that walk on two legs, but are different than modern humans and described with more ape-like features like more hairy, but are different than the monkeys that exist on the islands like the long-tailed macaques. Locals say the ape men live in highland forests, away from humans, and have occasionally stolen crops and maybe chickens. They don't describe much else about them, nothing about their social life, culture,
Anybody go up
and they
there to
seem
see
to be
what's
just
going on?
kind of considered a nuisance to the locals, nothing more aggressive than that. And it's like, based on the way they talk about them, the interactions seem to have happened recently, not necessarily passed down as legends from generations ago. But it's impossible to say for sure. They've never been captured on camera, which I guess makes sense for isolated populations, but even with the research teams on the islands that have been there for decades that do have the technology, they have never been documented. So are they still alive? There's no evidence, only stories that could possibly be misinterpreted. So it would be extremely unlikely, but I guess it does leave room for imagination. As we've seen countless times in science, crazy shit gets discovered a lot.
Yeah.
I tend to lean on the side of they're not alive anymore. They are very, very, very likely extinct. So if they are extinct, what happened to them? That's kind of up for debate as well, because again, the amount of evidence that exists right now is like not enough to say for sure. But there's
definitely valid questions asked.
Based on the fossil evidence, Homo floresiensis was alive between 100,000 to 50,000 years ago, ish. Honestly, there were like multiple numbers I saw at different sources, but it generally seems that the revised consensus is 100,000 to 50,000 years ago. That 50,000 years ago lines up with the arrival of modern humans to Southeast Asia. Maybe the hobbits were outcompeted by modern humans and eventually died off because they couldn't coexist. Or maybe humans killed them and it was more barbaric. There's no evidence of that.
I mean, there's no direct evidence of that, but if you just look at the evidence of humans in general.
At all. No evidence of the species ever interacting that we know of. So it's all speculation. It's also possible they went extinct completely on their own, maybe due to a volcanic eruption or a natural disaster. Until more fossils are found, this and many aspects of the Hobbits will remain a mystery. If you like this video, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my next long form video, the first episode of the History of Life series. Final and merch is on the way too. You already know what the fuck is going on. You can keep up with my short form content on TikTok and Instagram. Check out my Patreon for live streams and the Discord server.
I'll let it get the plug.
Stay curious.
I'll let it get the plug.
The world has a lot for us to learn. See ya.
All right, hey, yo, that was dope. We watched that dope here. For first watch, we came in at this is the thing she's doing now, the whole series. Cause I thought I seen some animal stuff on her stuff. I don't know like the history of Earth thing. I didn't know this was starting. Wait, this just where we came in. So I mean, good shot as far as I'm concerned. But yeah, that's whoo, man. I don't, just the part that got me the biggest about it is just like the predators and where you at. Like, oh shit, like bruh, I can't deal with no bird. You know, there's two of me. I'm a stocky dude. Like, you get a bird. Look, I don't need nothing that can fly being able to put me in its mouth. All right, I don't want those problems. But as far as the educational value of what I watched here, that was very interesting. You know what I'm saying? Stuff that I guess I've thought about before, but I haven't thought about in depth like that. You know what I'm saying? How certain things connected to certain things and how they move forward through evolution. So like, this is interesting. You know what I mean? I like watching stuff like this, you know, with her, Casual Geographic, and then like having some, that's the thing, like some kind of comedy to it for me, just something, you know what I'm saying, or something that I can look at and be like, damn, you know what I'm saying, like something, you know, that's just where I'm at with it, and I feel like she got that just like Casual does, so that's a take. Be sure to like, be sure to subscribe, follow me on all that there social media, and I catch y'all next one, fam. Peace.